things to think about today are virtualization, right? You have to virtualize your apps if you're going to move to the cloud, because you're going to take these virtual apps and stick them up there in someone's cloud and run them out there away from you, right? So that's key, is thinking about how you design the app, how you build the app, how you're going to scale the app in kind of a virtualized way. And so there's some key takeaways, I think, just around that, and in terms of watching these cloud vendors continue to evolve. They each have slightly different models between the big three. I call them the big three. It's Amazon, Google, and Microsoft.
At least we're in there.
And you're in there. And the other guys were there a little faster than Microsoft, but I think Microsoft, one of the things I said in the keynote, is they have a card up their sleeve that the other guys don't, which is all the tools. Right? And so if Microsoft's able to capitalize on that really well and provide a platform that makes it just really easy for .NET developers to on-ramp onto the cloud, it's going to be hard to compete with that. Sure. So, it's going to be interesting.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so when you look at, and I take the virtualization point, you're kind of saying virtualize it locally, because if you can't do that, you're not going to be able to do it in the cloud.
Exactly.
What are you looking at? So you might have been doing some other sessions around DevWeek this week. What are you looking at as the sort of tactical technologies that move us more towards cloud? And what are you looking at in terms of Microsoft tools and frameworks where you say, well, I'm following, we know you as an XML guy, we know you as a SOAP guy, we know you as a REST guy. What are you looking at right now, just a short term? Maybe you've been talking about some of it here at DevWeek that moves us towards that.
Yeah, great question. So a couple of things. First of all, the programming model for the cloud is REST. So, and that's one thing I've been talking about a lot this week, because, if you're going to be a cloud developer, you need to understand REST. Why is REST different than SOAP? How do I do it? What language am I going to use, right? What frameworks exist to make it easy? So REST is kind of like, that's the communication mechanism for cloud platforms.
Sure.
Whether you're doing Amazon, Google, or Azure, it's going to be REST, typically. So that's something to focus on and learn about, and I think that's something the whole industry is kind of grappling with now as the dust settles around SOAP and REST, and we see SOAP is good for this and REST is good for that. Yeah. This is where REST is really strong, right, is in the cloud. And so that's one thing. I had numerous sessions on REST this week. The other thing is thinking about the different platforms. Each cloud platform has kind of its own model around virtualization. So with Amazon, for example, EC2, it's just virtual images, right? So you need to think about how you're going to take the Microsoft products and technologies that you work with, how you'll package them up within a virtual image and use them in that cloud, if that happens to be your cloud of choice. And then if you're on Azure, you have to build your app in .NET, and you have to learn how to use the .NET Azure technologies and kind of their sandbox virtual platform that they provide as part of Windows Azure. And they provide a lot of good tools for that. So one of the things that I didn't actually give a session on this week, but they provide a cloud in the box, which is really compelling. I was about to show that in the keynote, but I didn't have time. The idea is you can just basically build an app, run it on your desktop as if it were running in the cloud. Right? So that, for a Microsoft perspective, that's an example of the kind of tools you're going to get with Microsoft that you won't get with the other guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so things like that, you definitely want to pay attention to those things. And another key piece, I think, is .NET Services. Because .NET Services contains a piece called the .NET Service Bus, which is basically your conduit to bridge your on-premise software with your cloud software. Right? Because if you have stuff running up there, it's going to need to talk to the stuff down here. You might have firewalls, you might have NATs. Right, so you need some way to be able to make that communication very, very, smooth and effective and efficient, and that's what the .NET Service Bus does.
Yeah, and I see a lot of excitement around that here this week. A lot of the guys speaking to are excited about it. It's sort of enabling technology for everything that has to come after.
Right.
Without that, we can't really get started.
Yeah. Kind of thing. Yeah, because we're going to have on-premise software for, like I said, at least 10, 15 years. There's going to be a lot of that still. A lot of it will never go away. So we have to have a model that really makes it easy to kind of bridge those two worlds and build an enterprise where you've got on-premise software, you've got cloud software, and there's a way to bring it all together. And Microsoft, to be honest, is the only vendor who has a story for that I've seen.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's another reason why the Microsoft platform, I think is going to be very effective within the enterprise. I think it's got a more compelling story overall in that sense, because you can envision how you would take a typical enterprise architecture and make it all work with these various pieces, because the Azure Services Platform is very comprehensive,